Welcome back to the Farm Show here on Westplex Talk 1045. Right before break, we heard a clip from Ag Director Chinn back on the first edition of the Farm Show way back in July. Director Chinn was talking about America's Heartland Packing, which is located in Wright City. We'll pick up with one more question that I asked Director Chinn. You've been a leader for decades in the animal ag space, and you've seen and heard a lot of misinformation, mischaracterization about these type of facilities. And it's probably particularly egregious when a company comes from, let's say, out of state. People would tend to mischaracterize or provide misinformation about what these facilities do. What role do state agencies like yours play in making sure that these type of facilities contribute in a positive way to the community?
Well, that's a great question, John. It's one we don't get asked very often, so I appreciate you asking that. One of the things that we did as a state is we took a group of community leaders and farmers and ranchers to their plant in Green Bay, Wisconsin. We wanted to learn more about this company. If they were going to become a part of our state and our business community, we wanted to see what type of a business they were and how they took care of their employees. And we were blown away with what we saw. They have an amazing facility up in Green Bay. They treat their employees like family. Everybody who we talked to in the Green Bay community couldn't say enough good things about this company. And they really are focused on making sure their employees are well taken care of. So that was one of the main reasons that we were really thankful that they chose Missouri, because we knew that when they came to Warren County, they were going to treat their employees just like family.
Again, that was the director of the Missouri Department of Agriculture, Chinn. So, 2 months later, let's ask the question, has America's Heartland Packing held up their end of the bargain? The facility officially opened in April 2025, already employs more than 700 people with plans to grow. Here's what AHP says about their involvement in the community. The company is also deeply committed to supporting the communities where its employees live and work. In a show of long-term partnership with Wright City, AFG recently celebrated the grand opening of the America's Heartland Packing Stadium at Wright City High School, a symbol of the company's investment in youth, education, and community spirit. And perhaps most importantly, the facility is a zero exposure building, meaning no untreated air, water, or waste leaves the site. Inside, a cutting edge wastewater treatment system minimizes environmental impact and protects the local watershed. American Foods Group also invested in advanced rendering technology that removes odors, ensuring clean air for the facility and its neighbors. And if you want to learn more about the facility, you can go to AmericanFoodsGroup.com. Last Saturday at the facility, the company hosted more than 600 members of the community, local farmers and ranchers, elected officials, and just folks from the community that wanted to see what goes on at the facility. Now, the day before that event, myself and a number of other folks from the media got a chance to do a walkthrough of the facility. I would point you to a few really good pieces of journalism. Jared White from Brownfield was there. He already did his report. Mindy Ward from the Missouri Ruralist is there. I haven't seen a piece from Mindy yet, but I'm sure she'll have one in the coming days. And I'd also point you to a piece from Meat and Poultry magazine by a gentleman named Ryan McCarthy. Ryan talks about the positive effect on local cattle producers, and Ryan says it even better than I ever could. I'll read you his paragraph. You can find it at meatpoultry.com. Ryan writes, quote, "The company said it sources cattle from area producers of all sizes. AFG said its network of cattle buyers bid on and buy cattle daily. Some of the incentives for producers include on-site cattle buyers and instant payments, along with grade yield live buying or hanging weight options. The facility also features modern cattle barns with climate control and fly deterrent fans." You can find this piece once again at Poultry.com and look up America's Heartland Packing. A really thorough piece by Mr. McCarthy here. One additional note on America's Heartland Packing: if you follow them on Facebook, you can see all of their job listings, their walk in job events where you can walk in, apply for the job, even have an interview, and get hired. And while we're talking about Facebook, have you joined us on Facebook yet? You can find us at Farm Show Radio. Now, I'm not going to tell you who began following our page in the last 2 weeks, but if you go there, you'll see Jefferson County Cattlemen's Association, maybe the top advisor to a Missouri member of Congress, maybe a Missouri state representative, maybe the boss of a wildly successful cotton company down in the boot heel of Missouri. I'm not going to tell you anymore. You got to go to Farm Show Radio on Facebook. Won't you join us? You can also join us on Instagram at Farm Show Radio. You can also join us on YouTube at Farm Show Radio. Okay, enough blatant self-promotion. Let's get into crop production and news you can use. Some timely news you can use. Last week on the show, we talked about red crown rot, and we talked about the fact that it had been spreading across the Midwest. We also mentioned that according to Crop Protection Network, which you can find at cropprotectionnetwork.org, red crown rot had entered Missouri counties. Last week, we pointed out the fact that red crown rot was in Lincoln County and that it was a little bit further down the road in Phelps County, but that thankfully it hadn't been spotted in our area. Well, last Friday, September 12th, Dr. Mandy Bish from the University of Missouri reported the observation and confirmation of red crown rot right here in Warren County. This is the first reported incident of red crown rot in Warren County, according to the Crop Protection Network maps. I haven't seen any media coverage of this yet. I do believe we're the first to report in the ag media world on this red crown rot in Warren County. Now, we should also note that this map does show red crown rot spreading throughout Missouri. So not only do we have red crown rot in Warren County, but nearby we have it in Lincoln County. We also have it in Audrain. We have it in Rawls County. And then a little bit further up in Missouri, we have it in Marion County and also Lewis County. You can find this map at cropprotectionnetwork.org. Here's what the folks from Crop Protection Network have to say about red crown rot. Research focused on best management practices for red crown rot are ongoing. Based on historical research and recent research, a few fungicide seed treatments may provide some suppression of the disease. Crop rotation with non-hosts may also help reduce inoculum of the red crown rot fungus in an infested field. The red crown rot fungus actively infects soybean roots when soil temperatures are between 77 and 86 degrees, so the planting date and associated soil temperature also may influence red crown rot severity. Cleaning equipment to remove soil before moving to a new field may also help reduce the spread of the red crown rot fungus to a new field. You may recall that last week we played a clip from the folks at Beck's Hybrids. Dr. Matt Montgomery, one of their top agronomists, gave some insight into red crown rot and some of what he's seen early on. Dr. Montgomery also pointed out some of the research that was going on to learn a little bit more about red crown rot before the 2026 growing season. I mentioned last week that there's a couple really good red crown rot videos out there, tutorials, if you will, and that one of them is from Stine Seed Company. Today, with the remaining few minutes we have here in B Block, I want to play some insights from Bill Kessinger. He's from Stine Seed, and Stine puts together the Stine Seedcast, really helpful information. Kessinger started by describing what to look for with red crown rot.
When we first started noticing red crown rot about 3 weeks ago, field agronomist Ian Metzenbacher was the first one that of the agronomy team that really identified it and grabbed a hold of it. It seems that central Illinois, southern Illinois really is a hot spot for that. And when you're out there trying to diagnose that and understand it, you kind of have to look a little bit closer at the red crown rot. Right now, you're going out there, you're seeing some of those spots that look like they're turning yellow, or maybe they're starting to die in that field, and you immediately think, well, that's just SDS coming in, or it's brown stem rot coming in. Well, the issue that we have with red crown rot is the foliar symptoms, the interveinal sclerosis looks the same. So your SDS, your brown stem rot, your red crown rot, if you're just looking at the leaves, tend to have some of the same symptomology. So what we have to do is then go out into those fields. And I think that's where some growers are missing right now, is they're just assuming that they're having SDS. When you go out in that field, you got to go out there and you have to pull some plants. We have to start trying to take a look at that root structure and look at that main stem right at the base. Basically, if you're looking at it, we all know, for the most part, sudden death. We want to split that stem vertically, and we want to look at that vascular tissue. If that vascular tissue is white, we're pretty sure that we're seeing sudden death syndrome. If that vascular tissue is brown, we're seeing brown stem rot. Well, in the case of red crown rot, we actually want to look at the outside of that stem at the base. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to take a look at it, and you're going to see some red coloration. The best thing I can tell you is that hopefully if you got a hand lens or something that can zoom at least 10x, that's what I like to do, get some magnification on that. You can get down there and you can look at that, and you're going to see little red balls called perithecia. That's going to be your telltale sign that you're seeing red crown rot. And that's going to be right at the base of that plant, right above the soil level. So it's one of those things that you can't diagnose just by looking at it from a distance. We have to pull it up and then try to pull it apart from some of these other diseases. And one of the other things that we're having an issue with is in diagnosing red crown rot is not only can a plant have red crown rot, it can also have sudden death. So we actually have two diseases going on at that same plant, making it very difficult for us to fully identify what it is without sending this to a lab. So we need to be able to get to those fields as soon as we can to really diagnose that. When you get a little later on into the season here and the plants begin to die, well, that red's going to start turning to a darker brown to a black color, and that's when it's starting to release that sclerotia. So it becomes hard to tell. One of the signs that we can assume is coming from that red crown rot is red crown rot causes that plant to die quicker than sudden death does. So those plants will die off just a little bit faster, and a lot of times you're still going to see that leaf still attached. So just a couple signs of what we're going to see. Usually if it's getting a little bit later, we're going to send that to that lab to verify it. But in those cases where the leaves are still hanging on and it's dying just a little bit quicker than what we're seeing some other diseases, we're going to assume that that's that red crown rot.
Fast forward just a bit in the video. Host David Thompson asked Kessinger, so what do you do if you confirm that you have red crown rot? Here's what Kessinger said.
Once we've identified it and we maybe sent some stuff off to the lab and we've proven what it is, and we have confirmed you have red crown rot, we got to start thinking about managing that into the future. And there are a couple different options. I know there's a few seed treatments out there that claim they have control. That's one way to look at it, and that's definitely a way to help. But the agronomy department has really taken a proactive step into this, is understanding which varieties are more or less susceptible to this disease. We're seeing major differences between the different varieties. So understanding that, hey, I want a high yielding soybean, but maybe to enhance those high yields, we're going to have to battle red crown rot, or we're going to have to battle root knot nematode, or anything else like that. We got to understand, hey, I need a product that isn't as susceptible to it for those acres. And that's what a big step of the agronomy department is right now, is identifying which products are more or less susceptible. That way we can get the highest yield onto your farm. And that's the key, is to have that conversation.
Kessinger is also realistic about susceptibility in varieties.
And when I say less susceptible, that doesn't mean that it cannot get red crown rot. There's nothing out there that is 100% resistant to red crown rot. Anything with enough pressure is going to be able to get it. Now, it's very similar to to SDS or brown stem rot. We put ratings on those of which ones we think are less susceptible or more susceptible. And most of the time those ratings come in very accurate. But underneath enough pressure, anything can get it. So I want to make that clear that there are products that definitely do a lot better against red crown rot, but there is nothing out there that is 100% resistant.
And in the spirit of being realistic about dealing with red crown rot, Kessinger says yield remains king.
Well, one big thing that's always set Stine apart is we look for yield. The plant has to yield, so that's our number one point, that we want high yielding soybeans. Then we'll go in and start looking at it, because if something does get a little bit of red crown rot but still out yields all the other products, that's still a really good product, and we're still going to use that in those areas. So we want to try to check that score. So how bad is it getting it? How bad is that product getting red crown rot? And what does that correlate into yield or yield loss? So that's one of the biggest things that we want to understand is, okay, we're going to go out there, we're going to take the notes, and we're going to score it on how well that it's handling red crown rot. Then we'll take that and we'll correlate that to yield and put that to bushels. And at the end of the day, that's where that score is going to run, that, hey, this one may not be the best on red crown rot, but it still yields very well in red crown rot pressure, under red crown rot pressure, if that makes any sense. So it's not a one or an all or nothing. Everything still has to revert back to yield, and we have to understand that that's the ultimate goal as a grower. We have to have high yields, and we want the most return on investment as we can get. So we have to understand that on the seed side is, what are we going to give up compared to what are we going to get, and what risk do we want to take as a grower?
Kessinger went on to say that one of the factors to consider is how much defense do you really want to play? And if you're playing a lot of defense with red crown rot, are you giving up yield? It's a fascinating discussion. You can find it at Stine Seed's YouTube page. That's the Stine Seedcast. It's hosted by David Thompson, and this episode featured Bill Kessinger. We are up against time for this segment for B Block of the Farm Show. When we come back in C Block, we will talk about a Missourian that had a pretty great week in Washington, D.C. We'll also talk about a meeting in Washington, D.C. by a group headquartered right here in our broadcast area, talking about the farm economy. You are listening to The Farm Show. That's Farm and Ranch, Missouri, here on Westplex Talk 104.5. We'll be right back.